Today it's all about Access Chapter 2, Tables and Queries. And you are going to be creating some queries whenever you do your exercises. So the first thing that we want to look at is how do you create tables? Well, we would go to the Create tab and we can create a table in Datasheet View. We can create it in Design View. So let's look for a second at Datasheet View. I'm not crazy about creating a table in this view. I'm going to put short text here, and I'm going to name this L name, which would be last name. And then when I tab over, I can choose number, and we'll call this ID number. And I'm going to go over here to the ID field, and I'm going to name it Person ID. We have donors too, but this person is going to be an employee, we'll say. So that's not really that cumbersome, but I want to go ahead and go into Design View and show you the difference. And we're going to call this Person Table. Okay. And I like seeing it like this, and I really think it's easier. I think it's fewer clicks to go down here and put them all in, but you can do it. Everyone has their own preference and how they prefer to work, and maybe it makes more sense to you to look at it in the other view. Either way works, and we'll end up with a similar result, but I rather like that when I click on this, I automatically get these options up, and the property sheet is over here, so the property sheet does not have to be. We can open and close that property sheet easily enough. If you accidentally close it and you don't know how to get it back, property sheet is right there. So it's really easy to get it and get it back. All right, now we actually can delete fields in here too. I can just right click and go delete row. And yes, I'm going to delete it. It's going to warn you if you have entered data that it's going to delete the data as well. We don't have any data entered in this. Now, one of the other things that I wanted to show you was that you actually can just copy a table. You're not going to in the exercise today, but let's say that I wanted to make a containers table, and it was going to have exactly the same fields as the plant table, only they were going to be called containers. So I can right click and hit copy, and then I can right click and hit paste, and it's going to ask me the name, and I'm going to call it containers. And you know what? If I'm actually doing this, I don't want the data in it. I only want the structure. And I'm going to say OK, because all I was hoping for was that I wasn't going to have to type all of those things in. And I'm going to go back to Design View because I prefer to work in Design View. And what I'm going to do right here is where it says Plant ID, I'm going to change it to Container. It makes sense that it would have the same data type and container name and containers on hand. So that is a really quick, easy way, and if you know that it's pretty much the duplicate of another table like plants and containers, containers might have some other characteristics that plants don't have, such as color, and that would be short text. It might have volume, which is going to be number, and I did not have to pull the drop down. I just hit N and it went ahead and filled it. So if you know something about your data types, you know the first letter of your data types, if you do it, it's going to get in there. So you get pretty fast whenever you do this a lot. Okay, so there we go, and we can hit the Save button if we wanted to continue to work with it, but we wanted to save what we had thus far, and I could go over now into Datasheet View, and I could enter data for a bunch of containers. I could also import it from an Excel file, append it to a table. So we do that. I don't have one already, but I'm just going to show you real quickly that I can choose from a file, and then I would tell it to append to another table. It would need to, you need to match up your names of your columns, but that is really handy because a lot of times you end up building a database that started out as an Excel file. And it's really very easy to convert that into a database if you know a little bit about Access. All right. So relationships is an important part of Excel because it's actually how Excel creates the queries, so that it has to have the relationships in order to do the queries. So this is called the primary key here, and it's a foreign key when it's in another table, and a primary key linking to a foreign key. So let's say we want to go ahead and put containers in here, but there is absolutely, and that was the wrong thing to do because that just opened containers, and I know that I won't be able to establish relationship if containers is open and if person is open. So I'm going to close person. And as soon as I get my cursor where I can find it, I'm going to. Yes, I want to save the changes. So what I have here is I've got donations, donors, and plants. Now let's just say that the plant needs to have a container. So I'm going to go into the plants table, and I'm going to add another field, and it's going to be container ID, and it's going to be auto number or just number because it's going to match up. I did not name it. Container ID. And I just said that I didn't like as much working in this view as I do in design view, and that's still true. But you can work in either one, and sometimes if you just have one task to do, it really doesn't make a lot of difference. Now I need to close this and save it. So now I have a container ID there, and I'll pull containers over, and I will match container ID to container ID. Well, I say I will. There we go. And I want one-to-many, and I want to enforce referential integrity and cascade update and create. And there we go. I have my containers, and every plant now has a container. And that was a pretty straightforward process. So you're going to be creating queries in different views, and we can close the relationships window now. And we want to save the layout, yes. And we would go to create and create query from the wizard or from design. I demonstrate how to do both of these in your guided practice video for this chapter. So I'm not going to demonstrate this right now. I will open up these queries and I will show you a few things about them, and I don't really want to see it in data view. I want to see it in design view. The important thing is that the table here is a drop-down box. I can change what's in this first one just by changing the table. I don't have to delete it. However, I can delete it. Click here, delete columns, and it goes away. And I can insert columns. And I can go ahead and just drag a field down into that column. And when I do, it actually inserted one, and now I've got this extra column that I don't want, so I can hit delete column. So there we go. And queries, just like tables, can be copied and modified, and you will do that in your exercise, and I do demonstrate how to do that. It's very much the same as what we just did with tables. So there's something called a multi-table query. What do you think that is? Well, here we go. It just has more than one table in the query. It's really simple and it sounds complex, but those are words that you need to be familiar with. A multi-table query, that's all it is that we have 3 tables in our query. And that pretty well sums up what you need to know for this unit. So I hope that you feel free to contact me if you need help with the exercises. You are expected to do the independent practice by yourself, but you do have a video to take you through that guided practice video. Hope you enjoy it. I hope you take the time to set aside time so that you can really think about it, because as quickly as I go through this, I'm pretty familiar with it, so I can go through it quickly, but it really does require some concentrated effort to get through these exercises.